Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Mindful Minutes, where I chat with other beautiful women out there about the importance about our mindset and, how we love ourselves, how we take care of ourselves. And today, my guest today is Michelle, and she, radiates that same message about, looking beyond our body image, right? And seeing ourselves in a new light and stop comparing ourselves to everyone. And really, again, seeing the powerful, amazing person you are. So everyone, I'm Tanya Otterstein-Liehs, a coach to help women on self-care, self-love. And with me today is Michelle. Welcome, Michelle. I'm so happy you're here in this conversation today.
Thank you, Tanya. I'm grateful to be here, and I appreciate the ability to speak to other people who are
Yeah.
just looking for that light and that guidance and not to feel alone in this whole journey that we call life.
Yeah, yeah, it's true, right? Life, it's the journey, right? And where did I find Michelle? I love seeking other women that same message about the power of that. And I saw Michelle through Instagram, and I was, been looking at her for a while, and hearing about her message is like, yeah, I got to have Michelle on. So, Michelle, tell us a little bit about yourself, your story.
Sure. So, just a quick recap so I don't go down the rabbit hole of my story. 4 years ago, my life turned upside down, not by choice, but by circumstance. And I was left feeling isolated and unworthy and looking for something to get out of my own head for a little bit. Because we all know that those demons in our heads can
Mhm.
start to play loud, especially when we're feeling at a low point in our life.
Yeah.
And for me, I had been later in life, I had become like a runner, right? And I called myself a runner. Yeah, I competed in half marathons and duathlons and then got injured. And then this life changing event occurred for me and I could no longer run. So that affected me profoundly. And I knew that in order for me to get out of my head, I had to find something that would physically push me
Yeah.
out of my own head. And I found that through exercise. I found a community through exercise that helped me see beyond just the number on a scale and
Mhm.
helped me start to, attract away from focusing on that number and those inches and really start focusing on, you know, the words I was saying to myself and the things that I was reading and the people who I would engage and the food that I was fueling my body with. And I call it the trifecta because really the three things combined: your mindset, your nutrition, your movement, all kind of work together to keep you propelled forward. And I had this one event occur to me during a workout. I fell to my knees and I thought to myself, if I'm feeling this way at the age of 40, trying to figure out who I am,
Mhm.
surely there must be other women in the same,
Yeah.
way of life. And that kind of propelled me into my own coaching journey as a mindset coach. And that's a short and condensed version of who I am.
Yeah. So, from what you're saying, Michelle, that, it seems like prior to your own shift in your mindset, you were comparing yourself to others and you needed to do this to become a better person. You need to follow through. So, and you had to be this way. And you had this roadblock of seeing yourself who you truly were. And, you know, it was like, I have to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. I have to be like this person because this is what works for them. And then through a traumatic experience, all of a sudden you needed to kind of shift gears and do this mindset change. It's like, okay, wait, I'm going to stop comparing myself and I need to look who I am as a whole, what's going to work for me. And it's about the baby steps and the journey to a whole wellness, not only in through nutrition, through exercise, but through the mindset, you know, and that's how I love that you gave yourself permission, because we as women, we really struggle with allowing, giving ourselves permission to discover who we are inside and hear that inner voice and say, okay, whoa, I need to stop going on this road where I am, and I need to travel on this new journey and discover who I am and what works for me. So, to hear that message that what you discovered is a very powerful, because there's a lot of women that struggle or not give themselves permission to hear that inner voice. And do you find, Michelle, once you gave yourself permission to hear that inner voice that's been screaming at you and you silenced for a long time, did you find that's what finally opened this whole new world and of self-discovery?
Yep, completely. But there was hesitation, right? Because you essentially educate yourself and you train yourself throughout your entire,
Hmm.
high school career and university career that you're meant to do something, right? So you propel
Hmm.
yourself on this trajectory to head there. And the universe keeps throwing little jabs at you, right? Keeps
Yeah.
putting up those hurdles. But you're like, no, I'm determined, right? I am determined to
Yeah.
get that corporate title because that was the path I was on, right? So
Yeah.
while the universe is trying to show me what I'm meant to do, what purpose I'm supposed to fall into, I was very adamant about not following that path, right?
Hmm.
I was very adamant about this is what I've spent my entire career following. This is what I've spent my entire, like everybody in my life has told me that, you go to university, you get a good job, you
Hmm.
work up that corporate ladder.
Hmm.
And yet the universe is telling me, breathe, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happened to me 4 years ago, right? Like it told me to stop.
Yeah.
And then once I started to give into that, right, and started learning more about who I wanted to be out of
Hmm.
this life beyond a title,
Hmm.
it definitely opened up pathways for me that I didn't know existed, right? that
Yeah.
that whole giving yourself some grace in the season that you're in is huge,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
It's massive. And I think we as women tend not to give ourselves enough grace for the period that we are in and the period that we are moving forward to, because we're stuck
Yeah.
on some ideology of what we should be and not
Hmm.
who we are. So,
Yeah.
but it doesn't happen overnight, right? We all
Nope.
know we would all love that magic pill that you take and boom, it's magic.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting, Michelle, because, other guests I've had on that also started out in that corporate world, it's like it's so structured, and this is the way the ladder is this is the way I have to go. It's when trauma came to them, it opened that world of what you just talked about, right? So, it makes you wonder, that standard of that corporate world. And it's often when you have that hard crash that you realize, like, this other beautiful person that you didn't even know existed.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden you're able to blossom, and it's like, okay, this is where I need to be. This is what feels right. This is what I've meant to always be doing, and now I'm doing it. So to hear that, I always love when I hear that story, because you're right, and it's interesting. It always seems to be too that when we're in our 20s and 30s, it's you have this vision, but then something shifts when you start hitting your 40s, and or your 50s. And it's nice to see. It's like you said, it doesn't happen overnight. I people know that I've been on a 25-year journey, 25 years plus, and it will continue, because we learn new things about ourselves. We learn new things about, they say, as you become older you get wiser.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's it.
Um, so,
Absolutely.
what allows you to continue, Michelle, thriving and living your passion, and I'll say through mindset, or, this mindfulness.
It takes a lot of work and a lot of practice in order to be accepting that this is the path that I am meant to be on, right? So I
Hmm.
have to be very diligent about this lifestyle that I'm creating, right?
Yeah.
It's no longer about get up and hit the rat race, right? It's about getting up and, saying my affirmations in the morning of, and I'll be honest, when I started to hear and read about affirmations, I was like, what is this hokiness, right? Like, come
Yeah.
on now,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
it's true, right? It's
Yeah.
because you're fueling your mind with this concept that you are worth it, you are capable, that you are worth the investment of time into yourself,
Hmm.
right? And for me, doing those morning routines really kind of helped, cement the step into this purpose that I've been going into. And then also seeing the women that I work with and the women that have become part of my tribe and my community, see them grow and blossom and not want to be comparing themselves to
Yeah.
someone who is, in their, I call it the post baby body, right? Like you hit 40 and you're like, oh, I want my post baby body back. And someone who at 33 just had a kid, right?
Yeah.
It's like, That's great, but no, accept that your body is going through this season of change. Accept
Yeah.
that your mind is going through
Yeah.
this season of change. Give yourself some grace,
Yeah.
and let's work with what you currently have to see where you can push your body to go, right?
Mhm.
And that takes mindset, right? It's
Mhm.
letting go of that compare-itis,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Blessing yourself
Yeah.
and raising yourself and realizing that you are worth the investment in time and movement and nutrition, that it's all easy, right? We've all, I've been guilty to the fad and quick and easy, protocols. I've done them all, I think. I'm pretty sure I've done them all,
Yeah.
right? And none of them worked because they
No.
were so flighty, right? And when you start to invest in yourself through positive affirmations and giving yourself some grace, you start to see yourself grow in a way that you never thought possible,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it's a good
Yeah,
plan.
so true. And it's interesting because I just wrote the other day a post about that, about myself being premenopausal. That we need to, and overall, even regardless of, what age you're premenopausal or not, but stop comparing yourself to your 20-year-old person.
Yeah.
Your 20-year-old self, because that was then. This is now. This is the life moving forward, right? Be in the moment. So yeah, because there are other times, because I hear it from women too, and you just mentioned that, oh, but when I was, this age, I could do this, and now I can, and oh, I'm doing nothing different. My body's changing. I don't know what's happening. I was like, it's life. This
Yeah.
changing. Like, I mean, I'm sure you say too, I would never want to be that 20-year-old that I was before, right?
No.
Yeah, it's to hear that you're hearing that as well in your circle, that
Yeah.
yeah, this is a new journey and this is life, and our the way we change, and nobody's perfect, right? Nobody's perfect. The people that make themselves out to be perfect, really, they're
No.
not,
No.
right?
And
Yeah.
I'm all about, accepting where we are.
Hmm.
I work predominantly with women in their 40s,
Yeah.
and there's a switch that happens between, I'd say, 40, and only because I'm going through it myself, 40 and 44. I'll be 45 later this year.
Yeah.
But it's like a mental switch that happens where, like, I'm going to be the best version of myself getting older,
Yes.
right? Like,
Yes.
I want to be that 68-year-old grandma,
Yeah.
who's able to have her grandkids go, oh, my nanny's still running half marathons, right? Like,
Exactly, right? Yeah.
you
It's
know,
called youthful aging. Youthful,
exactly.
right? Like, you want to be able to continue and be active, not at the same level by any means, but
No,
at that level, a new level, but still youthful and energetic. Um, what works for you. And,
yeah,
right now too, I mean, COVID, I don't know how long. We're in 6 months and it's not going anywhere.
no.
you know so what have you been doing? What's advice you can share with other women out there that might be possibly struggling with this whole COVID-19, and a lot of us are needing to make lifestyle changes? So what's advice that you can get and helps you get through, has been getting through these last 6 months and continuing?
For me, it's routine, right? Setting up yourself for success is routine. I get it. We've all been thrown into this weird, I call it nonsense, right? This upset of a life. And we
Yeah.
didn't know how to handle it, right? We had to homeschool kids for some of us that still have kids at school, right? We had to adjust working from home or adjust to finding new ways of creating a certain income. So it's, that period's done. We're in 6 months into this, right? That's okay for the first, I would say, 2 months, pushing 3 months. But then you get to a point where you're like, you become comfortable in that lack
Hmm.
of routine, or
Hmm.
you can say, I got to do something. And so
Hmm.
you set yourself up for routine, whether it be committing to half hour to 45 minutes of some type of movement in your day. And you make that a non negotiable with your family.
Yeah.
You say, this is my time.
Yeah.
I do it in the morning. I'm a 6 a.m.er. That's how
Yeah.
I get my time in, right?
Yeah.
It's committing to fueling yourself with healthy
Yeah.
food, right? Processed food, we've all do it. I do it too, whatever. But it's like, it's the 10% versus the other 90%
Yeah.
that we're doing. Because again, you're setting yourself up for routine, creating or, bringing back those healthy habits that you did before
Hmm.
COVID. Let's bring them back in, right?
Hmm.
And really reading, right? And I'm a huge proponent for reading. Audible books are fantastic. Like, those are great. Those hearing books are great. But I'm all about, picking up a book and spending some time at least, devoting a chapter a night of
Yeah.
like fueling your mind with good
Mm-hmm.
positive affirmations. Fluff pieces are great. Nonfiction is fantastic if that takes you, if that's your jam.
Yeah.
But fueling your mind with things that are going to get you to your goal, and journaling. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
important in everyday aspect, is finding some time for journaling in
Mm-hmm.
whatever form you're doing it. It doesn't have to take long. It doesn't have to be, a thesis. It's just about what you're grateful for, what you want to move forward
Yeah.
to. And that'll help you set up some type of routine in your day. And I get it. Some people say that's all fine and dandy, but how do I do that?
Mm-hmm.
Post-it notes or incorporate it into your phone, right? We all carry a phone around with us 24/7. We all, are scheduled. So incorporate it into your phone and block
Mm-hmm.
out that time for you. At
Yeah.
first, it's going to feel wonky. At first, it's going to not feel natural, but then it'll become part of your day-to-day lifestyle. And then you'll be like, why haven't I done this before? So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm a strong believer in that journal writing as well.
yeah,
If there's a day that I haven't done, I set it out intentionally through my mind. But it feels really, this morning I said, oh my gosh, I haven't wrote in my gratitude journal for 3 days. It feels really weird, right? So, got to write in there. But yeah, really, and it's like you said, set it, it becomes part of routine, right? When you make it a daily habit, it becomes part of your routine. And the days where you don't, it's like, oh, something's not feeling right, right? Well, what is it? So like you say, movement or journal writing. And yeah, and when it becomes a routine, it doesn't seem like a task that you have to do, but when am I going to do it? It becomes natural, right? And it feels really good once you've done it. So yeah, and I love the fact that you said make movement a part of your lifestyle. Set a time. I always say to make an appointment with yourself that you can't cancel. I mean, when you go to the dentist or doctor, that is your set time, and you keep that time. So make parts that bring you joy or happiness. And with movement, I like how you said movement, because sometimes when we hear exercise, we envision a certain way. But movement, it's ways moving your body physically that brings you joy and happiness, and you look forward to it, and you reap the positive benefits at the end. So yeah.
if people like to listen to their books, they can kill two birds with one stone. Go
Yeah.
for a walk, listen to a book.
There we go. There we go. Exactly. But I'm like you. I like to hold the book in
I
my
like
hand or magazine. I need that physical thing in my hand to be able to turn the pages. Now, Michelle, we've been talking a lot about your mindset and your beliefs too, and making things a part of your life, and that it's a journey. Now we want to know a little bit about Michelle, who she is. So, what is a quote, Michelle, that you absolutely love and intend to live by?
it's for one that's near and dear to my heart. It's small ripples make big waves.
Yeah.
And I had a yoga teacher actually say that once, and that is forever, echoed into my hippocampus right back there. And
Yeah.
it's one of those things that when I look at that big goal and what I set the intention of for my life, it takes a lot of small steps to go up that mountain.
Hmm.
And that's very mindful for me that, the small steps are all wins. And even if I fall back a step or two, they're all lessons learned in moving forward. So
Yeah. It's
I think that's
interesting. You're not the first guest that has picked that
oh,
quote. The pebble, the rock and the pebble and the waves, same idea. So yeah, that was really interesting. And as far as advice, I know you shared advice earlier about, COVID and things that have helped you. But I mean, we're all full of wisdom and advice. So what's another piece of advice that you can share with our listeners today?
for me, I think the biggest takeaway that started me really kind of focusing and stepping away from the number on the scale was
Mm,
really journaling for me.
yeah.
And it doesn't, it's hard for me to say don't pick up a fancy notebook at Indigo or some other store and start writing it, because it'll make you want to go back to that book over and over again.
Yeah.
But do some investment in picking up a nice notebook and a nice pen and spending some time journaling. And like I said, it doesn't have to be anything complicated. 3 points of gratitude every day.
Mhm.
That, you know, like last night it was like, I'm grateful for another day to breathe again. For
Mhm.
me, that's equally important as, being able to spend time with my family.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
doing those little things, I think, sets sets your mind apart from dealing with everything that's going on around you. This isn't an
Yeah.
easy season for all of us,
No.
but being able to be aware of what you have is so important, to see that this eventually will pass
Hmm.
in whatever form that looks like.
Yeah,
So, but it will
exactly.
pass, right? But being able to see that, you've got a roof over your head, or there's food in the fridge, and your family is healthy, and you've been able to get up and breathe another day, there's so much power in the
Hmm.
practice of gratitude
Oh
that
yeah.
we don't fully utilize it.
Exactly. I love that how you pick those little things because it is true, right? People think it has to be big, but it doesn't. It can be small. And you talked about I was able to breathe another day, and it's interesting because one of the things I always include in my journal of gratitude as well is I am grateful for my health because it keeps me alive. Like it's a simple thing, but it's a huge thing, right? It's a huge thing. Now, Michelle, this is always one of my favorite questions, I'll say, because it kind of gets you looking outside yourself. So if this was the last day of your life, and you cannot include family with your answer, so if this was the last day of your life, Michelle, what would you be grateful for?
And I can't include family. I think it's just, oh, that's a hard one. That's a hard one.
Because we always are grateful for family, right? I mean, no matter what. So that's why it's like, yeah, like you look beyond. What are you grateful for?
Oh, it's like, I'm like, oh, I've got a couple of things. But honestly, I'm grateful for the life that I have, right?
Okay.
The life that I've lived,
Yeah.
uh, with all of its ups and downs. There's been a lot of lessons learned, and it's definitely made me the person that I am.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm also grateful for watching the waves crash against the sand. I've
Hmm.
always been attracted to water, and there's
Hmm.
something calming and centering about watching the ocean break, or a lake break. For me, to me, that's grateful. That's gratitude to me.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. There is, something very powerful about water. It's something I often have people try and get to, like it's a creek, it's a river, something you can walk to get to the water, because it's the motion of just watching that flow of water. You sense you it's like you got experience, right? The sense of calm that overcomes with you, and kind of your thoughts and negativity is washed away, and yet water is powerful. And I was mentioning to clients, like even when you're standing in the shower and it's the water's washing over you, any negativity, let the water wash it down the drain. So yeah, I love that you sense the power in the water too, because yeah, there's something magical about it. So Michelle, I want to thank you for your time today, and your messages that you shared. There's huge, I think, deep hidden messages in your words as well. But again, I feel the number one takeaway from our conversations today is, again, listen to the words you're using when you talk about yourself, when you describe yourself, and think about what your daily mindset is. Are you looking in the mirror and nitpicking things? Or that's fine, but then put a heavier stone on there that weighs that away, and it's gone, with a positive affirmation, and seeing the beauty in yourself, and taking that negative comment and changing it into a positive comment. So thank you for sharing wisdom. And if you want to know how to reach out to Michelle, of course all the information is underneath our episode today. Any last minute words, Michelle?
Give yourself some grace and go through this day with a smile and full heart. That's it.
Nice. Thank you very much again, Michelle, for your time and being a guest on my mindful conversation here. And as always, how I'm going to end it. When you go to bed tonight, think about the best thing that happened today. And when you wake up, think about or write down what you're grateful for. Tanya Otterstein-Liehs saying thank you again for listening to another one of my podcasts and minutes. Feel free to comment below. Love to read your comments. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.